Assalamu alaikum. Hope you all are doing well and have thoroughly enjoyed your summer break and your Eid. Today we are having our first lesson after the break, and you should be excited because we are beginning with a new chapter. This topic of our new chapter is fraction. We would be covering various concepts of fractions in this chapter. But to begin with, today we are going to start off with the basics. What are fractions? What are the components of fractions? How can we treat fractions? How can we write fractions? How can we interpret pictorial form into numeric form and vice versa? But before we begin, I want you all to solve this easy peasy worksheet to get your minds working. It covers the basics of what we need to know in order to start learning about fractions. I've pasted the link in the chat box. You can begin now. You have 7 minutes, so be quick. Welcome back, guys. So, have you solved the worksheet? Was it easy? I'm sure it was. So, let's begin with recalling a few previously learned concepts. Remember the thing called part-whole models? Okay, so on the screen, you can see a rod of cubes. How many of these cubes are blue? Let's count. 1, 2, 3. And how many of these are red? 1. So we have a rod of cubes which has 3 blue cubes and 1 red cube. And if we need to find out the total length of this rod, if it would be 3 blues and 1 red, which is 3 plus 1 equals 4. So we can easily say that 4 is the whole, while 3 blue and 1 red are the parts of the rod. Similarly, let's move on to the second example over here. If we know the value of the blue cubes as 5, we can even count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we knew that the total length of the rod of cubes is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then in order to find out the number of red cubes, we can simply subtract 5 from 8. That is 1 part from whole. This is the part-whole model concept. So if we subtract 5 from 8, 8 take away 5 equals 3. So the number of red cubes in this 8 cube long rod is 3. We can conclude over here that if you know the whole and part of the model, we can easily calculate the missing part. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's revise another previously learned concept. Okay, so who remembers the shapes that we have learned about this year? Yes, we learned about square, circle, rectangle, triangle, and yes, oval as well. How could we forget oval? What happens to these shapes when we chop them off? Do you think we can divide them in equal parts? Let's see. Okay, which shape do you guys see over here? Yes, it's a circle. Can we get another shape out of it? What are the ways we can achieve that? What do you think? What else can we cut up the same way? Can we give a few real life examples? Let's see. Okay, if I had cut it up in half, I would get a semicircle. How about I cut it up further in another half? I would get a quarter circle. Yes. Well, when I see things being cut up in this way, all I can think of is food. Yes, that's a pie. How about I cut it up in half? Then I'd have 2 pieces of the pie. And then if I cut it up in quarters, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. Which foods can you think of? Okay, so what are fractions? So there's Jack and there's Amy. They have colored their sheets of paper. Jack claims that his sheet of paper is 1/4 of my paper is colored. And Amy says, I colored 1/4 of my paper too. So Which one is correct? What makes you say that? Let's watch this video. Okay, so now that we've watched this video, from this video we learned that we use numbers to represent whole objects, and anything less than one whole can be represented as fractions. Fractions are parts of a whole. In a fraction, we have a numerator and a denominator. The numerator represents part of whole. If numerator is 1, that represents one part of the whole. For example, 1/3 represents one part out of 3. And 1/4 would represent one part out of 4 parts, and so on. Okay, so what are the components of fraction that we've done this far? We have a numerator and we have a denominator. The numerator shows the number of equal parts of the whole that is shared. The denominator shows the number of equal parts the whole is divided into. Are these parts equal? Visually, I personally think they are equal. What do you think? Okay, now we have a bunch of colorful circles over here. Let's have a look at these colorful circles. What do they represent? What makes you say that? Do you see any similarity between them? Are they sorted out in some way? Okay, well, it was good to know your answers. I would like to share my opinion as well. These circles represent wholes that are cut up into different number of parts. They are sorted with respect to colors, I believe, because I can see that whites are wholes, reds are halves, oranges are thirds, yellows fourths, light green fifths, dark green sixths, light blue eighths, dark blue tenths, and lastly, purples are twelfths. Okay, what do you see over here? This is a chocolate bar. How would you like to share it? This is a whole chocolate bar. How many people do you think can share it? Do you think you can represent it in the form of a fraction? Submit your answers and your responses in a video or an audio. I would love to hear your replies. Okay, so we need to recap our session today. For today, we learned a few words. These new words were fraction, whole, equal, numerator, and denominator. We learned to use these words in a new dimension today. So, a fraction is a whole that has a fraction is a part of a whole that has been divided into equal parts. The numerator and the denominator are the components of a fraction. The numerator represents the number of chosen parts, while the denominator, it represents the total number of parts. That was a recap of our today's lesson, and that's it for today. And today you have to do page number 99 till 102 of workbook, and you have to do page number 67 and 68 of homework book. These tasks have been uploaded on the Google Classroom, and you have to submit images of your work by the end of the day. In case you have any questions, I'm right here and till our class ends, and also you can post your questions on the Google Classroom. Those of you who have not collected your workbooks till now from school, please let me know and I'd share the workbook pages in digital form. Thank you.